Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name is Jeff Thomas, and we have a very special guest with us today, Sam Schmidt. Now, normally, I was just telling Sam before we started recording, normally I do about a two-sentence intro, but Sam is arguably the most interesting man in the world. So I might have to stretch it to six, so bear with me, Sam. I hate when people are reading my bios, but Sam, he bought his dad's part business when he was 25. Okay, so he was already a business owner at 25. He was a racer. He was, an amateur car racer, and always dreamed of racing in the Indy 500. And that dream came true. And he raced in the late 90s in three Indianapolis 500s. Now, unfortunately, he was in an accident at a different racetrack in 2000, became a quadriplegic. And one might think that would be kind of the end of the interesting story. Frankly, to me, that's where it got interesting. By God's grace, Sam after becoming a quadriplegic, he started a motorsports company, and he can tell us all about that. Ended up partnering with McLaren, getting bought out by McLaren. It's an amazing story. He now is helping other people in similar physical situations, doing research and helping people with all kinds of neuro-related injuries. And Sam, hopefully I did that justice, but welcome to the program. We're thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, that's the brief version, which is great.
Okay.
How many hours do we have, right?
Now we'll try to get into a little bit of the extended version. Tell us.
Right.
We always try to start with kind of where you grew up, what your family was like. Obviously, we talked about you buying your dad's parts company. Maybe we can get into that in a minute. But where did you grow up, and what was that like?
Well, I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska, which I proudly say I'm a Cornhusker, even though football has not been the best place for them lately. And I like to think that instilled some second uh, hit these little muscle spasms every now and then.
No sweat, man. Take your time.
Uh, okay, I'm back.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so born in Lincoln, Nebraska, product of a farm boy in middle of the country, Claytonia, town of 600, and my mom was from Beatrice, and again, born in Lincoln. I am a Cornhusker fan, or else I would be disowned by my family, spite of their lackluster football right now. But and I like to think, I believe wholeheartedly in Midwestern values and that whole thing. Even though we weren't there very long, I spent a lot of summers there, a lot of relatives still there. Um, Values, work ethic, integrity. Dad always said, didn't have a lot of cliches, didn't a lot of things. He just simply said, uh, do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And, it, it has a lot of applications, but it's not always easy to find in today's world people that actually do what they say they're going to do, right?
Good
So,
point.
yeah, that's that. But he had an opportunity. He was a fabricator. He was a racer. He had an opportunity to go to California to work on a project building some race cars with a legendary builder by the name of Don Brown. Um, and they were for some really well-known race car drivers at that time. He said, "What the heck? I mean, let's see what California's like." And they loaded up a 55 Chevy and drove out there and with a little 10 by 10 trailer,
Yeah.
thinking he'd be back in 3 months, and they're still there. So
Wow.
left California. He was a rather progressive thinker. Like he was in a band and he worked a number of jobs and he, like I said, learned his fabrication skills on the farm. Was wearing leather jackets long before anybody else, but
Right.
um, Yeah, he loved California, and so my mom loved California, and that was that. So
How old were you when they moved out there?
like one and a half. So
Oh, okay, so tiny. And did you have siblings?
I did not. Nope.
Okay, but just only child. All right.
Broke the mold. They apparently wanted more, but just wasn't in the cards. So
You remember hanging around the racetrack as a kid?
I do. I mean, literally, I didn't have a bicycle. My first set of wheels was a motorcycle.
It's
My dad
fantastic.
bought me a five. I was 5 years old, and it was Christmas present, and he was racing off road, and so it's weird because I have a lot of friends, that their parents are into football, basketball, baseball, hunting, fishing, whatever, and that's kind of
Right,
what they migrate to. But I didn't realize, I was different at a young age, but we were into racing and either he's racing on the weekend or I'm racing on the weekend, and nights were filled with working on the race cars, working on the motorcycles, and that's just, kind of like 5 to 11, that was the deal.
right.
Age 5 to 11, that was the
Yeah.
deal. Um,
Did you get into go-karts or was it mostly motorcycles? What was it from 5 to
No,
11?
the only four wheels I was on at the time was called quarter midgets,
Yeah.
which are, I've got a picture, but yeah, it's a little quarter midget, it goes quarter midget, three-quarter midget, full-size midgets. So I
Yeah.
did a little of that, but it was mostly motocross,
Okay.
and two wheels. And I was big in Southern California at the time.
Okay. And then you get into like middle school, high school. What's happening?
So ironically, I'm sitting here in this wheelchair, and when I was 10, I was back visiting my grandparents in Nebraska, which I kind of always did for a month. Helped them on the farm, detassel corn, do all kinds of cool stuff. And my dad was racing in Mexico, and he got he got in an accident there with Mexico. They literally race off road, but they use a lot of gravel roads that are used by the local population, and it was really rural down there at that time in the 70s. And he was racing, and he came around a blind corner. There was a truck coming the other way,
Oh my
and he
gosh.
pitched it sideways. Uh, you know, got kind of T-boned. Was knocked out for a few minutes, but then woke up. Thought it was like a concussion. But what happened was his brain slapped up against the inside of his skull, wound up forming a hematoma there, putting pressure on the left side, which paralyzed his right side.
Oh,
So
really?
effectively, he was, like a stroke, but paralyzed right side, lost his speech. Somebody recommended they get him across the border, which was a very wise decision. And
Right.
they were about an hour and a half south of the border, so they got him in a truck and took him over to Chula Vista, California, and that began a progression of things, obviously. And he shortly thereafter made it to UCLA, obviously much better neuroscience, neurosurgeons there. They It was a bit of a flip of a coin, but the decision was made to take the blood clot out. It was quite large and relieve the pressure. And they said he'd never walk or talk again. But as I learned at an early age with my dad, if he ever wanted to do anything, tell him he can't do it. So uh,
Yeah.
he went to, I watched visibly as he went to 2 years, 5 days a week, 2 hours a day at Cal
Wow.
State Northridge, outpatient therapy, and learned how to walk again, learned how to talk again. Never used his right arm, never got to use that back, but he adapted and adapted everything else around him and still alive today. And, you know,
Amazing.
50 years later. So,
You clearly got some of your tenacity from him, no
uh,
doubt about it, right?
yeah, little did I know at that time what
Right.
an
What was
example
coming?
an example it would be from me 25 years later. So
Yeah.
yeah, that began a saga. But I did fall back into conventional sports after that because of his accident, football, basketball, baseball, and played that through high school. Had a couple opportunities in college, and frankly, just wasn't good enough to get to the pro level. So why beat my body up so bad in college, to not get the rewards. So I was very fortunate to go to Pepperdine, um, where I met a lot of great people that I'm friends with that still to this day. And I think at that time of your life, you're kind of wondering where to go, what to do. But
Right.
that was a huge blessing for me because just it's not only a beautiful place to be, but also just just you got this, I think, 17 to 1 student teacher ratio. We're regularly having class in teachers' homes and having great
Mm,
conversations and just things I think you get at a smaller private university. Also, had never been outside the United States other than Mexico, and had an opportunity to go to Germany and London to go to school, and just all those kind of things that
yeah.
again kind of get put in front of you, and
Broadened your horizons a little,
it's
sounds like,
huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Before cell phones and before you actually had to learn how to figure things out in a different language all of a sudden, right? And not use an app for it. And um, so yeah,
And
simpler.
then, so you get out now. I said in the intro that you took over, bought Dad's business at 25. But what was kind of happening in the 20s there? Catch us up on that early
Yeah,
career.
actually before that I was introduced to kind of a for business class. We were doing a case study on healthcare, and a friend of a friend was running a mid-sized private healthcare company. They owned a bunch of smaller hospitals in Southern California. And I was introduced to them to kind of just interview them for this case study. A 1 hour of the interview turned into 4 hours and staying for dinner. And next thing I knew, he offered me a job, and I graduated to be a um, an assistant hospital administrator
Okay.
down in Commerce, California. And I'm like, well, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I had worked in my father's business kind of summers 14, 15, 16, and knew that like it was great. I loved the business. At the same time, I knew my dad and I had like different thoughts on things, and and we both kind of thought it would really be good for me to go work for other people, see the
Right.
world, like get a different perspective on
Right.
things. Just work for him and work in the family business, which I think is very wise for a lot of people to do that. And um, So I went and dove into this assistant healthcare thing and hospital administrator, learned a bunch. I mean, here I am, now 22, and working in a, 120 bed, pretty small hospital, but learning a lot. And then 9 months later, I got promoted, I thought, to go to Van Nuys and run my own little like 60 bed hospital at 23, multi-million-dollar budget. When in fact, I was just sent there to fire everybody and turn it into a psych hospital.
Nope.
So went through the whole thing at that young of age of
Wow.
having to fire about 75 people and
Yikes.
getting my car keyed and all kinds of fun
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
And you know, what I learned so much, and it was such a valuable experience. Um, but it also taught me that, for-profit healthcare is an oxymoron. I was really struggling with, providing the best care possible when trying to, produce a profit. And so that kind of tainted me on healthcare a little bit from the start. Little did I know I would need that later in life.
Right.
But also just the politics of it all. I think it's probably evident in a lot of big companies, but especially in healthcare and in smaller hospitals, a lot of times you have one or two doctors that control the majority of your census. So really, at the end of the day, the hospital administrator winds up being a puppet for those doctors because, like, depending on which way the wind's blowing, they can get you hired or fired. And so that was about a 2.5 year process of just feeding through a fire hose, um, navigating the politics, having a lot of responsibility thrown at me, learning a lot. But at the end of the day, it's like this is certainly not an industry I can really live with myself doing
Right. Right.
and with these conflict of interest in my brain. But most importantly, like I really need to do stuff on my own. Like I want to be in control of my own destiny, I guess is a
Yeah.
better way to put it, and not rely on others or, get thrown in situations where there's some legacy things going on. But amazing opportunity again, just, again, sometimes those doors open up, you just got to walk through and do it. And a lot of times, as I told my kids, you learn a heck of a lot more from doing stuff you don't like than stuff
Yeah.
you like, and just put it in the bank and move on. And we did. And at the same time, my father had got an opportunity to kind of migrate into the auto auction business from his
Okay.
salvage yard business. And so, hey, great. I grew up in that business. I know it like back of my hand. I have some ideas of how to make it better. And we worked out a plan for me to buy that business and for him to go on with his own deal. And it was great. So, yeah, I slid back up into Sun Valley and, started working 18, 20 hours a day, living upstairs, literally in a twin bed.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
I've loved the business for the next 4 or 5 years, and that was that.
And so, all right, so now you take over the parts business. When does the racing come back into the picture? Is this already happening, or are you thinking about it, or you're just seeing a lot of auto parts and you just can't stop thinking about what's going on with that?
It's a little bit of a parallel track because it's a lot easier to go racing when you kind of have your own business. You can take care
So
of
true,
everything
right?
else.
You don't have to count
And
your days of vacation, right?
exactly. So it's and I wasn't married, so I didn't, no more, no marriage, no mortgage, no nothing to, kind of have to think about that situation.
Parts
Yeah,
for the car, just keep the
yeah,
car running. That's what you got to worry about.
yeah. So I kind of this was all around 87, 88 when I
Yeah.
got back into the salvage business, and then 88, 89 was doing some dabbling in amateur racing, and my uncle, my father's brother, had a business in the neighborhood, and he worked in special effects for the kind of commercial business and movies and TV commercials. He was a driver, stunt driver, that kind of thing. And so he was
Oh,
racing
wow.
SCCA at a relatively local track called Willow Springs. I said, hey, I'll go out and help him a little bit, see what's going on. And just started surveying the situation and saw an interesting class of cars, which had a ton of cars, 35 plus entries, but also it was a entirely spec situation with you can't, the motors were sealed, the cars were sealed. It was just all driver. And so I said, if I dip my toe in this and I do well, then I must be pretty good at it. We'll carry on. I like the road racing aspect and not being in the dirt as much as I used to be back in the motocross days. And let's just try this for a year. That was 1992. Bought a car, went out, got my license, and started racing. And good or bad, I just started winning. Like I think I won
Yeah.
my second race and 35 cars out there. And so I started migrating around California. I literally had a 4350 van, an open trailer, and whichever of my friends I could grab and say, hey, can you take notes for me and take some tire pressures, and I'll pay for the accommodations
Right.
and the food for the weekend. Let's go have some fun. I did that. I think in 1992, I raced 42 races.
Wow.
Some of them were double race weekends
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
sure, but that's a lot.
But that was between San Diego and San Francisco. So
Okay. Okay.
a lot of times we just take off Friday after work and drive to the track and race Saturday, Sunday, and drive back
Yeah.
and work all week long. So it just kind of not atypical. I mean, people don't realize that there's probably a couple thousand races going on every weekend
Yeah.
around the country. It's dirt tracks, ovals, road course races. There's an entire industry around just kind of the weekend racer, and that's
Yeah.
what I was at the time. But because I won the West Coast Championship and won everything on the West Coast that year, I went to what's called the National Runoffs in Atlanta, and out of 42 cars, finished third. Stepped up the next year in what's called an F2000 car, open wheel car. And frankly, the rest is history. It just kept winning and
Yeah, it just
moving
kept
up.
sort of progressing. I mean, when did people, I mean, how big was that jump to the IndyCar in 97? I mean, or when did you
Yeah, I
start? It's
mean,
95?
yeah, it was relatively big, but a lot of people know baseball, so I equate it to, you start out facing 60 mile per hour pitchers, and then if you escalate through, summer leagues and year-round play and clubs and everything, you eventually get to that 95 mile per hour
Right.
fastball. With racing, it's the same thing. The first car I raced was 120 miles an hour, and then 140 miles an hour, 160 miles an hour. And then the big jump was 96 to 97 because I was in a 160 mile per hour car. And the next stage would have been a Toyota Atlantic. But the challenge was there was no marketing for that and no way to raise money for
Mm,
sponsorships. But the next level above that's IndyCar with Indy 500. And the budgets really weren't that much different.
Oh,
And
really?
I had the Indy 500 to market versus this, so we just made a leap of faith and went from kind of skipped a level and went up
Yeah.
and in the IndyCar and raced IndyCar 97, 98, 99. Um,
And you had your own team even from the beginning?
I signed up with a team in 97. We had our own team in 98, and then I got hired in 99 by Sprint PCS and Tribal Racing. Um, yeah, for that. I'm trying to think. Uh, which is the ultimate goal. I mean, to get paid
Right.
and not have to worry about bringing sponsorships. And in my
When
mind,
did it
I'd make
become a
it.
full-time gig? When did you leave the parts business behind?
So trying to think.
Well, it doesn't matter the exact year, but
Yeah,
like when you became when you were doing Indy, was that full time?
yeah, pretty much. It's
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 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 yeah.
you're all in, whether you're like 97, 98, I'm having to find the money and drive and train and do everything. And we got married in the middle of it. Like
Okay.
we ironically, Sheila and I got, but I had known Sheila for 8 years. We met in college, dated for a year, and then luckily, boomerang back around. 7 years later, she was still available and still knew my name. But got lucky on that one too, for sure.
Sure.
We got married at the end of my first year of amateur racing, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I met your daughter at the SRG event. We met at the Strategic Resource Group that does evangelism in the kind of
Yeah.
Middle East and North Africa. And I know your daughter's very interested in that. When did she come along in your?
So yeah, we got married in 92, and I think she was working full time, and so it's interesting in the racing thing. You got to have a spouse that's very independent minded because I'm
Right.
on the road 200 days a year, and
Exactly.
you got to have their own thing going on and their own interest. And but she was a really hard worker too, so she was doing the 18 to 20 hours a day,
Wow.
and so I think a lot of it was just that, like it wasn't a priority, and but Savannah came along in 1997, my first year of racing, and that and so Sheila worked until probably 8 months in, and then had Savannah and became a full-time mom. And first year of Savannah, uh, I think we counted she was on 52 flights with us.
Oh my gosh.
But in recollection, it's actually easier before they walk. Once they start
Right, right.
walking, and of course we've always been avid Southwest people, and
Yeah.
so it's funny because by year two, when she saw us walking, she starts just going up and asking the flight attendants if she can pass out the peanuts, and
Right.
so it's just like yeah, all this stuff that people can't relate to nowadays, but
Right.
uh, it
It's
was
fun.
yeah, we have
So
a
okay, okay, now we're getting up to the
right.
accident. We don't have to go play by play with that if you don't want to, but you got to take us through a little bit of that. I mean, we were talking before we started recording about setback stories. This is some people struggle with thinking about those things, and of course this isn't, I'm sure, the most pleasant thing to talk about for you, but at least it's an obvious one. Maybe take us through the accident.
Yeah, bottom line, you work so hard. Like, I mean, I worked incredibly hard in a short amount of time to go from 92 amateur racing to 97 pro racing, IndyCar. Um, had a really good year in 98, wound up finishing second at the last race in 1998 to Ari Leindyke, who has won two Indy 500s,
Oh yeah.
one of my, heroes in racing, and he decides to retire on the spot. He recommends to that team owner to hire me to replace him the
Wow.
next year, which all came together quickly. And so here I am racing professionally in 99, led a lot of races, started up front. I was like third in the points. We go to Las Vegas, which is the second to last race, and also my adopted hometown. So I do a lot of promotions. That week, I go out, sit on pole, and 3 laps from the end, I pass for first, win the race.
Nice.
Everybody goes crazy. Everything, I got this. At that time, I got a 6-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. Been married 7 years. I mean, like, uh, it's a picture of
Life is good.
Life
Doesn't
is
get much
really
better,
good, you
right?
know?
You-
It just can't get any better.
Literally winning.
Winning. A month
Yes,
later, we
winning
get,
is good.
yeah. So then 4 months later, we're like one of the odds-on favorite to win the 2000 championship. Of course, all of us go through this whole 2000, the sky is falling, computer's going to crash, all that stuff.
Right.
We get out the other end of that, January 6th of 2000. I go to Florida for testing. Everybody kind of shows up and you start preparing for the season. And I was really fast and just, you know, c- perfect, imperfect situation. Something happens and I back into the wall, 200 miles an hour, and safety was not then what it is today. I actually learned a lot from my accident to prevent that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I back into the wall, blow apart C3, C4, C5. I'm knocked out. I'm unconscious. I'm not breathing. They do the whole thing you see in the movies of bagging me and start, artificially breathing me and get me on a backboard, get me in a helicopter, take me to Orlando Regional Medical Center. I pinched my spinal cord and they do a surgery and they just, Sheila grabs a 6 month old, jumps on a red eye. Luckily, my father was there with me at the practice. So he's kind of guiding things. But yeah, she shows up the next morning. Doctor says, well, he made it through the night. If he makes it through the week,
Wow.
um, he will be on a ventilator the rest of his life. And we don't expect that to be maybe more than 5 years.
Wow.
So that was, 25 years ago, 26 almost. And yeah, don't if you don't like the first opinion, get another one, right? So especially after being through what my dad had been through and
Yeah.
overcoming the predictions there, he just starts making phone calls, rallied the friends, go visit spinal cord injury specific rehabilitation centers. I'm out of it. I'm not having any influence on this, but they wound up finding a Dr. John McDonald in St. Louis at Barnes-Lewis Hospital, who had been working with Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation to create
Oh,
some
yeah.
new rehabilitation techniques. And he's basically the only one that says, we're gonna work his butt off to get him off the ventilator. And if we can or can't, then we'll dictate what goes from there. Everybody else was like, that sounds pretty bad. We'll teach you how to live with it.
Right.
So they liked that, at least hopefulness anyway. And
Yeah.
about 3 weeks after my accident, they airlifted me to St. Louis. My parents, my wife, my kids got a three-bedroom apartment, and we just started digging in and doing what we
Wow.
had to do. And they got me off a ventilator about a month later,
Amazing.
and I feel like I've been working out ever since. And so,
Right. Right.
it was a different time. I had professional athlete insurance. I got 6 months of rehabilitation. I went home. The house was, ready for me and had transportation. I went back to work. So not what it is today, but that kind of is the other part of the story.
Yeah.
But that, you know, again, my dad's experience dictated how we reacted to it a lot. And all we knew was that we had to give our best, especially with a 6 month old and a 2.5 year old, and we got to try and make a go of this.
And what's amazing to me, and maybe we'll get into this in a minute, but I mean, it's just an amazing story of the part of the blessing that you make clear, as we've talked about this before, and even during this chat here, is how fortunate you were to have some wonder. Your wife's amazing, kids are good, your dad had been through some of this stuff, so like, and also the insurance, and you know what I mean. Like you had as good a chance uh, as you did, and not everyone has that chance. And I know that's part of what your mission is today, is to try to help people. I mean, you can go ahead and just give us a minute on that. I know there's more to the story about business, but maybe just give us a
Well,
minute on what when you wake up and go to bed thinking about the cause that you want to help move forward.
yeah.
What is that?
Well, a couple different things. Um, now when you go from being able to sort of get up and get out the door in 30 minutes to
Right.
and being spontaneous to the exact opposite. Everything's got to be planned. Everything needs
Right.
assistance. Uh, and it takes me from between 2 and 3 hours every day to get going. And you really start thinking about what's important. What do
Yeah,
you enjoy doing? Do I want my wife to take care of me, or do I want her to be heavily involved in the kids? And I figure out how to take care of myself. Well, obviously, that was what we wanted to do. I need to figure out what is worth all this time, effort, and energy to get up. What am I really passionate about? Because
great point.
I had
Because it
done
compresses the time you have available, right? I hadn't thought of it like that.
I had done the auto parts business. I had made some private investments. We done well, and I was always kind of like a multitasker. And but what really was my passion to make it all worthwhile. I
Exactly.
worked out a lot, thinking I can just overcome this like I overcame everything else.
Right.
Well, I did get off the ventilator. I did get stronger. I never got to use my arms and legs back, which it took me a little while to realize why that was. But um, anyway, I say racing's it for me. That's what I want to do. So I
Right.
kind of naively, a year after my accident, started a race team in 2001.
Yeah.
And, you know, the results of which are on the internet. But long story
That's
short,
right.
we won 7 championships. We won 75 races. We, had a really good run. And, it put me back on the road, 150 days a year. I
Golly.
had some great help. I think one of a few foundational things came from all this. Number one, I was an egotistical, self-driving, hard driving. Let's face it, to be a professional race car driver and be successful, you need to be thinking about yourself. Uh, you
Right.
know,
Right.
um, and my wife will tell you, I was a type A person. Like, nobody could do anything as good as me. I had to do it all myself. I couldn't
Yeah.
delegate. I was just a real micromanager. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? Over 24 hours, I couldn't do anything for myself.
Oh my
I had to
gosh.
learn how to delegate like really quick. And guess what? Other people, if you find the right people, you give them the resources to tell them to do the thing,
They're
they're
pretty good at it.
pretty, they're pretty
Turns
good
out they
at it.
can do it.
Yeah, and so the whole fast forward 25 years is
So
I
cool.
have been way more successful letting other people, do the work than I could have ever done myself. So number one, that was a big takeaway. Number two, I never got the use of my arms back so that I could easily talk to somebody who's recently injured and say, um, because again, this high level of injury that I have is probably less than 5% of the population.
Hmm.
So the other 95%, I could look in the eye and say, you don't have an excuse.
Right.
Um, I travel 150, 200 days a year. I run my race team. At one time in the last 25 years, had, 15 different companies that I was working on. And, you know, if you don't want to do something in your life, it's not because of us or because of any outside things. It's because you decide not to do it. The only thing I know right now is if you do nothing, you will get no recovery. But
Right.
if you want to work at it and you have goals, we will help you accomplish those goals. But you got to do the work. And I don't. So I developed that kind of hospital speech um, because I just saw everybody being like coddled and it's going to be okay, and which is what parents and girlfriends and wives, that's positive, it's hopeful, but I'm here for a reality check. Like this is not easy. You have a decision to make, and everybody says attitude is everything. My mantra is attitude is a choice. You are in the
Yes.
hospital for an extremely limited amount of time. You have to decide right now, am I going to maximize that recovery? Am I going to continue doing what it takes to be a productive member of society after I get out of the hospital? And if so, you need to make that choice right now. And so I get a lot of like ugly looks, and a lot of people take me out, follow me outside the hospital room and say, how could you do that? And I'm like,
Get too
because
hard on them, whatever. Right. Yeah.
that's what they need to
Yeah.
hear,
Yeah. Yeah.
because otherwise you're going to get 6 months down the road and they're like, oh my God, you're like, this is hard. So and then I get an email 6 months later that says, thank you, I'm so glad you did that. It
Right.
was an immediate change of attitude. So yeah, again, I'm kind of talking through a lot of things quickly here, but
No, no, but it's okay. No, I think that's key. That's what we wanted to get to, man. It's like everybody, um, it's just amazing how I've talked about this. It's obviously the Generous Business Owner podcast, and I always say if you've seen one generous business owner, you've seen one generous business owner. I mean, God takes us all through different things uniquely. Yours was pretty dramatic, physically, and I guess neurologically. Of course, all that's connected, but I mean, this sort of the way that you've been able to use what that's taught you, what he's taught you to continue in business, continue in the industry that you love, to do that, and then also to speak to people who are kind of in the same situation. Frankly, it speaks to everybody, and I know you're working on a book that'll come out, in 26 about this, but I'm looking forward to reading that. But I mean, I think it speaks to everybody about, not just people that get injured and have that time of recovery.
yeah.
What kind of excuses do the rest of us have that don't have that? Do you think about it for them as well?
Well, it's funny because there isn't a week that goes by that I don't get a text from somebody saying, "I thought I was having a bad day," and then I thought about, and then I thought about you, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I could be that,
Right.
that wake up call for you. That I guess that's one of the reasons I'm here. But no, it's been an evolution. I wouldn't do anything different. I don't have any regrets. I mean, sure, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but I do have a remarkably good quality of life. I'm almost 26 years in. I constantly say I would not be here without my wife. I would not be here without my parents, my encouragement, my team. It's not a village, it's a city. I mean, I have a team that helps me travel. I have a team, a race team. I have a foundation. I have all really, really good people, and I really do try to, every day to just, give them the resources and let them go, and that's been the key to success there. Um, One of the reasons we've made the moves we've made lately, which is with the race team, budgets escalate. It's a lot of hard work. That's probably the most difficult side of it is finding the resources to be successful on track. And I could not see that going anywhere but up. And at the same time, I'm recognizing that, geez, I got 6 months of inpatient rehabilitation. I went home. I went back to work. I've been paying taxes ever since.
Right.
That is the way the system is supposed to work.
Right.
But at $6,000 a day for inpatient, for-profit insurance companies have figured out over 20 years how to take that from 6 months to 1 month.
Okay.
And with the best insurance known to man, you will only get 4, 5, 6 weeks if you know how to beat up the system and stay there. And then even when you get out, your house isn't ready, your family's not ready.
Yeah.
It's a 65% divorce rate
Mm.
and about a 15% suicide rate.
Wow.
And so this all hit me about 7 or 8 years ago. So we've been working to find the red exit for the team, which wound up being McLaren F1, and they're doing a great job resourcing and funding the team. I still have some responsibilities with our major partners and different people of the team, and so that keeps me engaged, but
Yeah.
also it's allowed me to focus on the foundation, which now that is all about at a high level trying to give people, as many people as possible, the same opportunities I had
Yeah.
with proper rehabilitation, proper vocational training, and it sucks this has happened to you, whether that's spinal cord injury, brain injury, stroke, MS. Those are kind of the top four. That's over a couple 100,000 new cases a year. Um, you know, if you have a desire and the work ethic and want to do it, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And so we got the facility. We started in Vegas. We opened one a year ago in Indianapolis. We're looking to do some more locations, but that's kind of, you know, the way I put it is I used to think passion and purpose were the same thing. And then it's been an evolution, but I really think racing is my passion. Uh, Driven, which is the name of the facilities, is my purpose. I wish I didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm raising a lot of money. We're, uh, you know, working on the foundation nonstop. Uh, but I do think that's why I'm uniquely qualified in a lot of ways to try and help solve the problem of proper rehabilitation. So, that's what we're going to keep doing. I think it's going to help a hell of a lot more people than I would help if I were just an IndyCar team owner. So I'm in a great situation that I get to do both.
All right. Well, it's just an amazing story. If people want to find out more about the work the foundation's doing or these centers,
Mhm.
where can they go?
Yeah, obviously, if you just Google my name, that'll A, show you a lot of really cool videos of stuff we're doing, because that's a whole nother thing I got to do, which is drive again.
Yeah.
It's part of again what's happened over the last 25 years and the opportunities I've been given. Uh, Not without a lot of work, but we've got to drive again. I've been 213 miles an hour. I've raced up Ice Peak, all just with the use of my head. So there's some great stuff there. But conquerprocessnow.org is the foundation, or just, Sam Schmidt, and it'll get you there.
Right.
That'll branch off to Driven. We have a whole line of Driven Neuro Recovery Center, Driven Research, driven applied technology where we're trying to develop.
Cool.
Uh, I mean, technology to me is the key to putting people back to work
Yeah.
with disabilities. And so this whole
True.
emergence of driving the car, working with electronics, working neurorehabilitation.
Yeah.
Now we got Neuralink with Elon Musk, and
Right.
I mean, it's all in my mind connected.
Yeah.
Uh, we're kind of at the hub of that, and so hub and spoke type methodology. So yeah, there's a lot
Love
there,
it.
but yeah, if they need help, they can get there from there, or want to donate, they can get there from there. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take too many degrees of separation for most people to find somebody within their family or their friend group that, if you don't need us now, I guess if there's one thing I learned in 21 years, if you don't need us now, chances are in your lifetime somebody in your family will. And it's sad, but things are a lot better now than they were 25 years ago from a accessibility standpoint, from a technology standpoint, from a driving and transportation standpoint. So,
It's
it,
awesome, man.
yeah. Mm.
So we always try to wrap with just a question for somebody behind you on the journey. It could be somebody who's had the injury, or it could be just a business owner who is trying to figure out what their cause is. What's just some practical tip you would leave with one or both of those people, whatever comes to mind?
Yeah, I've kind of dropped a few of those along the way.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. I mean, we feel free to repeat one, of
and there's a whole lot more in the book, but
course.
I think the most productive thing is like in my journey of making, say decisions of what to invest in, not invest in, and or just every day, you know, if you're the CEO or the owner of the company, you got to make decisions all the time. And
Yep.
the only time I've made big mistakes is when I thought I could outsmart a situation. For example, evaluating a company or evaluating something and saying, this is a red flag, but I can overcome that. I'm smarter than
Right.
that. They just don't know how to do it. I get into it, and sure enough, I should
I should have, it was red.
it was red. Should have passed on that and moved on. So,
Yeah,
hey,
when they put the red flag up on the race, it's for a reason, right?
yeah, in sort of a parallel thought is just remembering who's in control here, right?
Yeah,
When my ego stepped in and thought, yeah, I'm really the person in control here,
yeah,
or I yeah, all my best things in my life have happened organically when I realized that there's like a higher power making these decisions and steering me in these directions and opening these doors, And it really feels good when a door opens, you walk through it, and you have success, and then you realize it really wasn't me that opened the door.
Right. Ask God for direction in those big decisions, and maybe don't act too quickly or too.
Not just when you're in trouble.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, can't thank you enough for sharing your story and being with us today.
Yeah, and I really look forward to, sharing the SRG journey with you in the future and everybody we met recently. And yeah, I'm excited. Good place, got two brand new, grandkids, and so that kind of has really, again, in parallel to dissolving something that was all absorbing 20 hours a day in the race team to shifting that focus, that energy, that for good, and then also starting this other journey with SRG and the grandkids. I really look forward to the future.
Love it. Well, thanks again
Thanks,
for
Jeff.
being with us. Yeah, and we'll look for the book next year. And thanks everybody for tuning in to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. Check it out on YouTube, subscribe, share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.